Hey there, magic makers. It's Monday. It's time for another Magic on Monday session. And as ever, I am thinking of a word that feels like it needs to have our attention this week, that's asking us to lean into it this week, that somehow feels like it's in the ether and in the ethos of what we want to live into and create. So this week's Magic on Monday word is imagine. It's also reimagine. It's that way in which we can play with language just a little bit and put re in parentheses and let imagine stand beside it on the outside, because I want to give us a chance to recognize that what is asking to come through right now is at once deeply ancient and enduring and has been something we've always known, and is something completely new. Because it feels as if we're in this moment right now in which we are being born into an entirely new way of being. And that's at the individual level, it's at the community level, it's God's willing at the societal, cultural, national, global level. There's ways in which we're fighting it, of course, and there's ways in which we are very much in it. And it feels, like I said, brand new, and it feels like a return to something that just might have been more whole and complete once upon a time. And that once upon a time might be purely a space of our imagination. It might be a vision of an Eden of some kind in which we all got along, we felt at peace, in which we all were connected to ourselves, to the earth, to one another, and there was a sense of wholeness once upon a time. And sometimes that vision of wanting to go back is total BS. It's wanting to go back to the good old days, and you realize there never were any good old days, because in our last several hundreds and thousands of years of history that have been built on patriarchy, capitalism, oppression, somebody always paid the price for somebody else's good old days. And there's a sense of our own spirits of there was home once. There was home in some other realm, and I want to go back there. So that's why I offer us reimagine. It is at once a brand new place that we want to go to, and it is something that endures as long as cells and stuff in the universe has endured. So tell me, this week, what is your word that imagines? What is your word that reimagines? What part of yourself wants to be reimagined into being? What relationship, what sense of being in the world, creativity wants to be imagined in a totally new way? Lately, I've been sitting in backyards with friends having these deeply important conversations that are in some ways very much rooted in the practical, in terms of what are we going to do in September when it's time to send our children to school or not to send them to school. I live in upstate New York, where in many, many ways the worst is behind us, but it also could be ahead of us. And we don't know what it might be like to send our kids inside tiny rooms, especially for the littlest ones. I have a first grader. What will that be like for her? In this process of asking these very practical questions, we're also having these really widespread conversations that ask us to consider what it would mean to reimagine the entire system. And these sorts of conversations are inviting us to have the bravery and the insight and the humility and in some ways the hubris to imagine that we could reimagine this system. That just because this is the way we've grown up, just because this is the way the middle class in America has come to be formed by school systems and school years, that there's so much good in those systems, and there's a whole lot to be questioned, both from the inside for those of us who are teachers, and from the outside, from those of us who are parents and citizens. What are we being asked to imagine at that practical and that big, big picture level? These are deeply uncomfortable conversations, and they're deeply necessary. I know that I have had to give myself opportunities to read so much more fiction than I have in any time in recent memory, because I need to fuel myself with stories and deeply imaginative worlds. Right now, I highly recommend Jeanette Winterson's Frankenstein. She's one of my favorite writers since I was in college, and her newest book is fascinating and mind-blowing and deeply imaginative. These sorts of books, these sorts of magical spaces, give us the courage to talk about what seems deeply unmagical as we're trying to navigate how to be individuals and parents and community members in this changing world, in this face of pandemic. A word that imagines, a word that reimagines. Maybe you want to just start with one piece of your life that you would like to find the courage, energy, attention, purpose to reimagine. Maybe it's your relationship. Maybe it's love and sexuality. Maybe it's how you're living off of the land. Maybe it's how you're educating your kids. Maybe it's how you're engaging in the social justice movement and in so many other ways that we see these top-down pyramid structures oppressing so many people beneath. Where's your position in that pyramid? Can you reimagine it and become somebody new and offer a new energy that's at once ancient and immensely modern? A word that reimagines. Tell me what that word might be. Write a story. Let it take you into the widest possible realm and then come back. Find a word that will inspire you to keep reimagining this week and beyond. Blessings. I'll see you next Monday, Magic Makers.